is uniformly negative. For instance, 19th century British naturalist Alfred Russel Wallace is actually credited with coming up with the title of the king of fruits for the durian. And he described it in this way in his writings. He called it a rich butter-like custard, highly flavored with almonds, gives the best general idea of it, but intermingled with it comes wafts of flavor that call to mind cream cheese, onion sauce, brown sherry, and other incongruities. It is perfect as it is. The more you eat of it, the less you feel inclined to stop. In fact, to eat durians is a new sensation, worth a voyage to the east to experience.
But this idea of discovery and appreciation very often turns into a kind of judgmental view of people who are different.
Yes.
And food in particular becomes a way of making particular cultures seem weird or somehow lesser than themselves. Even Anthony Bourdain once said that the durian fruit will leave you with breath that smells as if you'd been French kissing your dead grandmother.
Oh, that's a bad image.
Right, and yes, maybe a lot of it is just for laughs, but and even like the video we heard from Mashable, maybe they're just doing it because they know that they're being filmed, so they want to overreact. Right?
Yeah.
What impression does this create of people who actually do eat and enjoy such things?
Exactly.
So we spoke earlier today to Kathy Rowland, cultural commentator and managing editor of Arts Equator, about this issue. It's become somewhat of a challenge or sport with non-Southeast Asians to try durian, and often with disgusted or appalled reactions. What do you think drives this kind of behavior?
I think it's the intersection of two different things, one of which is very old, Orientalism, and the other of which is fairly new, the attention economy. And they both complement each other in this case. So you've got content that is made for an audience that has been conditioned by decades and generations of social conditioning to view anything that is from the third world, be it from Africa, from Asia, from Latin America, as exotic, incomprehensible, that has a whiff of being uncivilized. This idea, for example, of stinky Asian food. And on the other hand, you can also bank on the fact that the same content is bound to raise an uproar against people who identify with the kinds of cuisine, for example, that you are poking fun at. And that guarantees that you've got something that might go viral, you have got something that will draw a lot of clicks and will, that you can then perhaps monetize.
So is this offensive or culturally insensitive behavior?
Yes, I think in a word, it is offensive and it is culturally insensitive. I might differ from a lot of people in the sense that I don't necessarily think that even though it is insensitive and culturally disrespectful, I don't necessarily think that some of the corresponding outrage that it's met with is necessarily helpful or justified, because I think we're feeding the beast.
So what are the cultural politics at play in a situation like this?
I think what feeds this kind of behavior is ignorance, it's being tone deaf, it's not really having had to view things from a position of disadvantage, a position of being on the sidelines, of being a minority. What's sad about this particular instance is that it's a worthy project. It's a project against domestic violence, but I thought it was interesting that Chef Paul A. Young said that they chose durian for this particular project because of its polarizing nature, and it seemed to be implicitly drawing a parallel between the consumption of a particular food some people might find unpalatable and therefore is polarizing because some might like it and some might not, and both might be correct. But he draws it as in parallel to domestic abuse, and I can't see anything polarizing about domestic abuse. Surely there can't be anyone who has half a brain who thinks that it is anything but evil.
And do you think that the internet and social media allow the affected culture of people more of a voice now, more of an ability to criticize such offensive or exoticizing behavior?
James Williams, who used to work with Google and is now a philosopher at Oxford University, has said this in his book Stand Out of Our Light. He says that there is no such thing as neutral technology. And I quote, "All design embodies certain goals and values. All design shapes the world in some way. A technology can no more be neutral than a government can be neutral. And I think